So the plan is, and for those of you who are unfamiliar with these, I go through all the updates from the previous month. We do these every month at the beginning of each month. So October's, I will do all the updates for September when you come to the October one later on in this term. This is July and August because of the ends of terms and things. We didn't do one at the end of July. So we've got 2 months to catch up on. Interestingly, there were lots and lots of user interface updates. It was about 30 odd slides yesterday, but there are far fewer techie ones that have been happening over the summer for some reason. Not quite sure why. And as always is the case with the techie update ones, those that will have a significant impact on you as an administrator, I mentioned, even if it's more about the user interface, as indeed this first one is. Of course, you've got stuff to do, but actually it's going to have a greater impact eventually on your staff rather than on you. So that's why this one's in here. So we'll start with this one. This has been coming a little while. The option to add add-ons, that feels like I'm repeating myself, add-ons directly inside Google Classroom. And the image is of the newly designed interface where you add the Drive and YouTube and create documents and upload stuff and things in an assignment. And you've now got this right on the right-hand side, you've got this additional box. I should say that it is just for Teaching and Learning Upgrade and Education Plus. So it's for those 2 paid SKUs only, not for the fundamentals. But it means you can add in your favorite add-ons, you know, Mote's not a good example, Whizzes, Flipgrid, Pear Deck, Book Widgets, whatever it happens to be, directly into Google Classroom. And you can set assignments inside Google Classroom and you can mark them within that and you can complete them with that. So it's all kind of fully integrated. Precisely what it looks like, yeah, we are yet to see, because I haven't actually got round to setting an assignment with a add-on links to it yet, but we'll have to wait and see. And maybe I'll do a demo of that next time, just for those of you who still haven't got to that yet. You need to enable it as the add-ons, of course, for this to happen if you've got those paid licenses, and you can either enable it and install it for the staff that you're going to enable it for, or you can create an allow list of the apps that you think are appropriate if you've got that process, which you really should have, of checking that they are GDPR compliant and that they aren't taking unnecessary amounts of data from you. So to do all that checking first, and before you will add it to an allow list, and once you've added it to an allow list, the teacher then goes in and goes explore add-ons, and the allow list will be there for them to see. So that's the way that it will work. Okay, but you do need to create the activity with the add-on inside the web version of Google Classroom. You can complete it and mark it on the mobile version, but you can only create it on the web version. So just to be aware that that has kind of a limitation on it. Not that it's a big deal. That's probably where most of your setting of assignments would go, I think. Second one, this was mentioned on Monday as well, about office building support for working locations. I don't know if you've seen this now, that on your calendar, you can set your working location. You can say, this is where I'm working. So coming next week, I'm off to Glasgow. So I've changed 2 of my days over there to say Glasgow. 2 weeks after that, I'm in Edinburgh. So my calendar now, just so people know where I am. Yeah, that's gone further now. And you can actually add buildings into that as an option as well. The buildings you add in have to be inside the buildings that you've added inside the admin panel. So it's kind of in the resources section. If you go to the resources, you know where you'll add your minibus or things you can book, like cameras and meeting rooms and minibuses and sports pitches and things, where you add all the resources. Where it says resources at the top, if you click the drop down, it'll change to buildings. You'll see all the, you've got option to add buildings. We had a question about this on Monday from Dave. Thank you for the question, Dave. And the blog tells us that the room options within buildings is currently paused. That was the 25th of August. So they must have had it working, but not properly, and must have had to pull it back to fix it, is what I presume has happened. So you can add buildings, and when you click the plus and go to somewhere else, you click inside the field where you're going to enter the building, and all the building options that are inside the admin panel are there for you to select from in a drop-down list. But I did experiment with adding floors and rooms and west wings and stables into some of our demo buildings, and I couldn't add those. I could only add the building. So it doesn't do everything, but it has said it's paused. So I'm expecting that at some point soon, they will add that functionality in, which I think will be even more useful. So people can look at a calendar invite and look where you are and know, oh, we're in that room. Okay, I'm supposed to be in that meeting. So it might actually prove to be very, very useful, particularly if you're in a multi-academy trust like Davies, when you could quite easily be in multiple locations all in 1 week. So it's actually a really useful for you and your team to be able to locate where you are. So I think it's a great thing. So this was also in on Monday because it has an impact on the user at the end of course, but you've got much stronger protection if you get any suspicious activity. So if someone manages to get into your account and, for example, tries to change the name of the account, the things that Google have deemed to be suspicious activities, they'll think, well, this is suspicious. So there'll be a verify it's you prompt, which will pop up, and it'll ask for one of the two-factor authentication things. So, mobile phone code or your two-factor key or whatever it happens to be, but they will require that. If you don't currently use two-factor on teacher accounts, I wouldn't use it on student accounts, but on teacher accounts, I would strongly recommend that you do. In the grand scheme of things, it's a little bit more hassle, but in terms of, the protection that it gives you, I think it's really, very important, I think. So if you haven't done that, and I know it's easy for me to say that, if you're someone like, colleague Sergar with lots and lots and lots of staff, that's quite a big challenge to get them all set up and ready. So you've got to think carefully about the process, how you do that change process and how you manage it. But I would say that it's really important that you do that. All the accounts that I have, I've actually got a YubiKey. And we do sell those, I should say that. I've actually got a YubiKey. Quick sales opportunity there on all the accounts that I use. So and I get it to do things like remember my home Chromebox, so I don't have to use my YubiKey every single time I log on. But I do use it when I'm out and about things all the time. So it's a great additional level of security. And like I say, if you've got suspicious activity, it'll ask for verification, and actually the easiest way is to have that second factor ready to go. And the YubiKey, of course, is brilliant because you don't then have to get mobile phones out, and you might not want your staff getting mobile phones out to verify their account when students are in the classroom, because they might not be allowed theirs, and that will create an issue. So it's just the YubiKeys, I think. They just sit on your key fob, don't they? So it's nice and easy to sort. Okay. So client side, is that a bleep for a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Paul, it's also worth pointing out that the Googlers in Google HQ London, they're only allowed to use YubiKeys. They're not allowed to use their phones or any other form of two-factor authentication. They have to actually use those keys.
Yeah. And didn't they once tell us that since they've insisted on two-factor on, they've not had no phishing attacks have got through to the user?
Zero.
I'm sure they said, and I don't know why they're not shouting from the rooftops about that, because that's a seriously impressive statistic. Not nearly none. The person actually said none. I'm thinking that's astonishing. So it clearly does its job. So it's definitely worth considering it. Okay, so client-side encryption. This is basically just another level of security on your Google Meets. And it's obviously what it says it does. It does this encryption on the client side. Admin needs. I'm going to read these words out, but I might well need someone else to explain what they mean, because each of the words is English, but I just don't understand them in this order, because I'm not really the techie that I pretend to be in this meeting. So you need to configure how the Meet connects to the key service and identify provider for turning on client-side encryption for users. I suspect you could read this yourself. Yeah. The key thing is that once it's done, or the organizer. No one can join the Meet until the organizer joins. They also can't communicate with anybody else until the organizer joins, and that it doesn't work for dialing in or dialing out. So there's limits to it, and hopefully you've seen on the left there, it's Education Standard and Education Plus, and of course, within an organization, those people that hold those licenses assigned to their accounts. So even if you bought lots of licenses, if someone's not got an account assigned to them, they can't enable that because they're not a license holder on that account. So just learn about that. And actually, I've put a link at the bottom of this. We will share the slide deck out afterwards to learn more about configuring client-side encryption here, because I thought you would understand that help file greater than I would. So just a further improvement in the security of Google Meets. Move on. So if you are someone who is using BigQuery and exporting your Gmail logs to BigQuery so you can manipulate them more easily and look at them in a little bit more detail and do some analysis of them and things. Apparently in the past, it was a kind of a separate Gmail log that went out to BigQuery. What they're going to do is they're going to start routing those into the Workspace logs, so they'll all sit in a single place. For a short time, it doesn't say why. I did try and find a date, but I either couldn't find it or there's not one there. There will be dual delivery, so you will still get your export of Gmail logs to BigQuery to the Gmail logs, and the Workspace logs will continue as normal, but the Gmail logs will also go to the Workspace logs as well. So you'll get a single dual delivery for a short while, and then eventually it'll just be delivering to Gmail logs. I suspect they'll give us notice when it's just going to be to a single source, but it just means that then all your data is in a single location. And in an ideal, or that's what you want, is you want a single source of truth of all of these things. So it's by far the best model, I think. But BigQuery is either a paid service or part of the paid licenses. I think Education Plus, I think, is the one, definitely. I'm not sure about the others. I should have checked that. I didn't check. I do apologize. I might do a quick check at the end in case while people are asking questions. Okay, so this is about DLP rules specifically. It doesn't say it in the title, but it did say it in the text. So you can basically build custom rules that limit who has access to all the DLP notifications and who is able to update and list and delete them. So it just means that if there are particular DLP about financial information that you only want to go to your finance officer, or child protection issues that you only want to go to your child protection officer, or so on and so forth. So it just gives you another level of control. It means you can set the rule with more precision, give them access to the rule to either update it or run it, or see the list of the events within the rule that's triggered the rule, and so on and so forth, and delete them, and to actually get the lead alerts to the right people rather than going to a much more generic list of people. James.
Lisa's asked the question. DLP, Lisa, is data loss protection. So it's things like if someone sent, creating a document or creating an email with a credit card number or whatever rules that you put in place for DLP, it'll flag it up to the admin and not allow it to be sent.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
We have got some sessions in our Getting the Most Out of Your Admin Panel subscription, Lisa. So we will cover those and we will get you some written.
Okay.
Just to afford you a better level of protection if someone accidentally shares something they shouldn't. If we've got the rules right, then it'll be flagged and you can then decide what to do.
Okay, thank
so
you.
It's okay. So it's on the list. So you'll know you'll be writing your own soon. Okay. Sorry, and apologies. I shouldn't. That was bad practice of me to assume people understood what DLP meant. I do apologize for that. Okay. This is in there again. It's one of those that's more likely to impact on the end user because it's about you've got greater control of Google Meet if you've got an approved device that's certified to work with Google Meet. So the person at the user end, if they've got a particular headset that is on the list of certified devices, then they'll be able to use the mute button on the actual device, and the light buttons will be reflected in the equipment that they're using, so it'll change the color so they'll know where they stand on things. So it's just about thinking about that. And the reason I put it in here is that you might well be the person charged with finding that person a new headset to work Google Meet or whatever, and it might be worth you having the list of certified devices so you know that it will behave the way you want it to behave, and they can use the mute button on the device as well as on the screen. So it's just about you being aware that there are certified devices, and it'll give them your end user a better experience with that particular device when they come to use it. So that's all that's about, really. So this is the at least I think it's just an update on the design, the user interface in the admin panel for the list of quarantined emails, and just a few kind of additional bits that have been in there. A collapsible side panel for filtering stuff, paginated table, so you can display quarantines with custom names, row by row, and the option to view the original message a little bit easier as well. So it's just giving you a bit easier access to view them and know how best to proceed with them. It's just a better designed interface. So if there is anyone on the call who is still using Microsoft Outlook, then there was a basic authentication that authenticated calendars across Google Workspace and Office. That's stopping on the 1st of October. So if you are one of those people that's using that basic authentication, you basically need to update to OAuth 2 in order for that to work still. It's only the online versions, the Office 365, that's impacted. If you've got on-prem Outlook servers, then the first question is, why on earth have you still got on-prem Outlook services? But if you have, this won't impact that apparently. But there's an interface in the this is the Photoshop, a screenshot from the admin panel where you can update to the OAuth 2 credentials and get it sorted. Then you've just got to follow the prompts to find your token and so on and so forth, your client ID and all that kind of stuff. Those are things I'm sure that you're familiar with. But if you're not using Outlook, then none of that will impact on you at all. So this is related to the location thing that we mentioned earlier about being able to specify the location in Calendar. And there's a new user availability API coming soon, which you can get involved in. The precise details of it were not particularly extensive in the update email. But you basically, if you think you need to start to look at that and how you might make use of that and know about the user availability by using that API, then you've got to sign up for the beta, which will be available soon. It's not yet available. And the link below the title will take you to the developer preview program page where you can sign up to that, and I presume all sorts of other developer preview program betas. And so you're kind of ahead of the game. That's all that's about. This was here on Monday as well. Just to be aware, if you've still got people using Hangouts, the only one that's still kind of actively there is Hangouts on the web. The mobile one and the one in Gmail kind of is already directing to Google Chat, but the Hangouts on the web is still there. 1st of November, it's going to direct to Google Chat Hangouts, and the Hangouts will no longer be accessible. And there was a warning in the email about the potential for some data in old Hangouts to be lost if people aren't aware. So if there are people who are still in love with old Hangouts, you need to be talking to them and saying, look, you really need to stop doing this now. If there's stuff in there that you're hanging on to because you think you still need it, and that's the only place it is, get it out of there now and move it somewhere else. You know, whether it's contact details for people or emails or conversation threads or whatever it is they need, tell them to take that out of there now, just in case they're the unlucky person that it doesn't migrate properly and they do lose some data. So just to be aware of that. And I mean, the other thing is that chat is so much more higher functioning than Hangouts ever was. Hangouts was great as a first sortie into that, you know, online chat environment, but it just, if you look at it now, it is seriously old, and chat offers such a lot of brilliant things with calendar integration and bots and groups, and you know, you get to call yourself a space manager if you start with chat spaces. You know, who doesn't want to be a space manager? So it's a much better tool, Google Chat. So encourage them to get the stuff out so they don't lose anything, and they might not lose anything. There was just a warning that, you know, that migration stuff there might be some glitch that they hadn't anticipated, and people might lose things. So tell them to get their act together, and they've got just over a month, haven't they, 6-7 weeks to get that sorted before they'll no longer have access to Hangouts on the web. And that's the last place it is currently available. All the others have moved to chat already. So, and then this last one, I did say there was far fewer than before. This last one is just Meet hardware. So if you've got a video conferencing setup that uses Meet hardware, and I've always announced these, and I don't think I've ever had anyone say, yes, we've got some Meet hardware. So rather than doing 4 separate slides, I've just done them all in one slide. So it's nice and quick to get through should you need it. And The first one then is about digital signage. So the Google Meet hardware is like a little screen, little monitor that sits on the table in your conference room, for those of you who don't know, and you can manage your meets through that. So if you book a calendar, if you book a Meet event in and you assign it to a resource like, conference room 1, then that will be on that Meet because that's assigned to that conference room 1, and then you can just join the Meet from that conference room 1 Meet hardware solution. So it allows you to do that. And whilst they're not being used, you can use the screen for digital signage. So if someone books the room but doesn't need to do a Meet, so that you might want to leave the thing just running with an image on it, and you can now manage those images through App Space. And so you've got the option to do that should you want to. Hey Google works better in that when there's a signed meeting. There's a perfect example. My Google device is responding to me. I've turned the mic off now. When you're in a Meet, Hey Google is disabled, so that there's no accidental calling on, no accidental interactions with Google whilst you're in the Meet, and then it turns off 10 minutes before and then turns back on 10 minutes afterwards. So if you're in the room and you're not using Google Meet, you can still use it as a Google Assistant and ask it questions, but during meetings you can't. The enhancements are frame people do lots of really nice images, so you can now use some of those to add nice images to the hardware when it's not being used. And the dark canvas is just exactly what it says on the tin, allows you to turn the dark canvas screen on, so it's got, it's not quite so bright, if people don't want a really bright screen in the corner or on the table in the Meet session. So that's just Google Meet hardware updates. And there are 1 or 2 people on here that I haven't met before. Are the people who are using Meet hardware solutions in their video conferencing rooms? No. I mean, it's a fantastic solution, but it's like lots of these things. It has a cost and an annual cost. So yeah, we're not seeing many. We have got 1 or 2 customers that do, but not very many. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for that. So those are all the updates. Next update is back to a Tuesday as before. That's Tuesday the 4th of October. That's the first Tuesday, back to the normal pattern. And I will take any questions if there are any questions. Actually, before we do that, if you go, have a little think about your questions, and if you're not don't want to ask them, you can always post them in the chat and we'll deal with them there. And I'm just going to very quickly show you where you add buildings. So you can see, hopefully you can see my screen. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit to make it a little bit bigger. I've gone to buildings and resources, resource management, and the default screen is it comes in at resources, where you add your your minibus and your library computer suite and all the things that people can book. And those are the resources that appear in calendars. So if someone wants to book a particular room, your hall or whatever for something, they can go into a calendar, create an event, click on the resources, and these resources will be available for people to add. Yeah, and then in the drop down here, resources, you've also got the option to go to buildings, and you would add the buildings in here. And then you can see I've already added 2 buildings. So once you've added the buildings, if I then go to my calendar and go to here and create an event. Oh, not create an event, I'm going to location address, sorry, not there. If I go to, you can see here I've got building 1. So if I click on building, missed it, building 1, I can edit that, and then I've got building 1 selected at the minute, but if I click on the and go add another office, when I click in the drop down, it gives me all the buildings that I've added in as options. So there is, I can change that to building 2, and that will add to building 2. And as I said at the beginning, you will eventually be able to specify rooms within that building, but that's been put on pause, I presume, because it wasn't working properly. So you will eventually, hopefully, be able to add those in as well. So that was adding the buildings in there. And then you get the option to ask how much do you want to do it. Yeah, I'm just going to go okay, because this is my demo account. Good. Any questions about any of those? Any more general questions about anything? Was someone about to unmute? Sorry.
Sorry, that's me, Paul. Just saying thank you for the clarification on the buildings. I was setting that up as you were talking, actually.
All right.
And that will work really well for us. It's actually live at this stage for us as well, so we can that should now be available for all of my team to indicate where they're working from, which will be useful.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very, because you've got how many schools have you got now?
We're 6 at the moment, so we'll be 12 by this time next year, probably.
Yeah. So it becomes more and more important, doesn't it? Because they could be anywhere,
Yeah,
couldn't they?
that's it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Very good.
Although I was seeing that same error message, that kind of same prompt that the resources need updating to show. I think you have to show floor and capacity and things like that for each room to remove that. To allow it to be used, just to allow the resources to be used properly within Calendar for other things like room booking and room release and things like that. So it was probably prompted me to have a look at it again in a bit more detail. There's some clever things that you can do with Calendar. Yeah,
and there's then a training challenge, isn't there? That people need to be aware. It should be worth saying that with the resources basically have a calendar. So if I book the minibus for Saturday, to go to wherever, to some concert or whatever, if someone else tries to book that same minibus at the same time, they get told they can't. So it is intelligent. It does prompt them that it's already been booked by someone else. I don't actually know what the error message actually says, but it prevents double booking. So it's actually very, very. So if you are an organisation that's got lots of resources that need booking, it takes quite a bit of setting up. I don't know if you remember how long you took to set it up, Dave. It takes quite a bit of setting up, but once they're all in there, and it's there and it's sorted. And I'm sure there's a bulk upload now, which there never used to be.
Yeah, there is. I know when we first started setting it up, you couldn't do a lot of the things you can do now, which is what's prompted me to go back and look at it with a bit more interest, I think, because it used to be very limited in terms of what you could use it for, and we took some of the resources and used them in kind of external ways. But I think we can probably do everything internal to Google now, which will be a benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'm sharing this tab. You can see I've got the option to add a single resource or bulk upload a resource. Excuse me. All right, so it's a CSV. So they give you a template. So they tell you what data you need to insert. So you can make sure you can see the CSV template there, and then you would attach that and upload it. And I presume it's exactly the same for the buildings, that you upload a CSV. Yeah. So again, you've got a CSV template. Fill out the fields and upload it. Okay. Excellent. Yeah. So we haven't looked at it I've looked at it for a long while. I think it's because it's not had any updates for such a long time that there's never been a need. So, and you can see I've got those floors there, but they're currently not available. Any other questions about anything that we've covered today? Excellent. Well, I'm going to say any more general questions. Anyone got any conundrums with their admin panel that they might want this August group to get their heads around? James, yes?
Yeah, just to say an update on shared drives in Enterprise. We've been in contact with Google regarding this. This is more for sort of like universities and colleges, where universities and colleges have lots of shared drives, and they want to be able to put a quota on the shared drive the same way that they can do with an individual user. That's not currently available, but it's coming. It is in the pipeline, and it is coming. So I just thought I would share that with you. Shared drives now can actually be placed in OUs, so you can actually assign shared drives to OUs, but you cannot at the moment assign a quota for the data level. But it is in the pipeline. It is coming.
Excellent. Thanks very much, James. John, there's a link in the chat there to a recently released certification for admin people. So yes, there are other kind of certified courses in Coursera. And I don't know, if I'm honest, I've not even looked at this. It was sent as a link to someone, and I've shared it with one or two people. I've not actually looked whether there's a cost for the exam that completes that course or not. I haven't actually looked, but I do know the Coursera courses are there as well, but they do cost quite a lot. And I think there's one in Udemy as well. Is that how you pronounce it? But that was one that was kind of come through Google itself, so that might well be a good one to start with to have a look at.
I think for the exam, Paul, it's in beta at the moment. I did originally sign up for it, but I was away when it first came in. I think there's normally a cost of $125, but if you do it whilst it's in beta, Google covers that cost, so you can do it for free at the moment. So if people are interested, it's probably worth jumping on that sooner rather than later, getting it for free.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's good. It's one of those things, isn't it? You know, you're in the thick of the admin panel every day, so you get very comfortable with where things are actually. But there's always that thing about you don't know what you don't know, which is always this. It always feels stupid when you say it, but of course there's some hidden little setting that might offer you an extra little bit of functionality. It's like that's exactly what we've been thinking about and talking about. Who knew that was there? Because it's like 600 settings, you know, and to be fully conversant with them all, you've got to do an awful lot of work, haven't you? So to do a course sometimes points you to something that is really useful that you perhaps weren't necessarily aware of, which actually fits the bill of a particular need within your organization.
Is that above me, Paul, or is that, or is it a good thing to sort of learn, or is that just
I would say do the subscription with us first, Lisa.
Yeah, okay.
And then if you're feeling more, you need more, then that would, I think by the end of the year, then you definitely would be ready for that. But
Okay.
we'll get you to a place where all the kind of core functions are all in place and you're confident with those. And then by the time you've done a whole year of rooting around and doing things you're less familiar with, you'll be much more confident to do that then, I think.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you.
I am tempted to have a look, but I do worry. I've had a quick look at some of the bits, and I think there's bits on networking and things, and I know that there are networks out there, but the fine detail of them all the protocols and things, I'm never really clear on, because I've got brilliant people like James and Dave and Cisco who I can lean on to answer those questions. So I tend not to really fully engage. So I'm not really my main area. Dave, yes.
Sorry, I've just looked at the page more closely, and it does say that the beta testing program is closed now. So it may or may not reopen at some point in the future. So keep an eye out on that. So apologies for giving duff information a few minutes ago.
Okay, no, thanks for that update, Dave. Steve?
We have the Google Partner event in a couple of weeks, the Global Partner event, and there's an announcement within that around a new admin console training and certification. So once we've got confirmation what it is, what does that look like, we'll share that out across our network via Chris or the newsletter, just to give advice. And if anybody has any questions on that, that'll hopefully be ahead of the next meeting. But we'll confirm more details of what that looks like, the pricing and everything else once we know for you. Okay.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Steve. Good. Any? Oh yes, James.
I was just going to mention, when it comes to you were talking there about calendar integration and the sort of the buildings and the resources and things like that. One of the other integrations that you can do with Google Calendar is maps and doors. So if you have a wide campus, or you have multiple buildings spread across a large space, if you have maps indoors, then you can actually pin that to your Google Calendar, and it will use the Google Maps API, and actually you can use your mobile phone then, and it will actually walk you into the building and to the actual room that you're supposed to be in.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much for that. Are people aware of maps indoors? It kind of does exactly what it says, and like James has just said, it's you use your Google Maps to get to the campus, and then you use your maps indoors kind of extra bit to get yourself to that precise room where you want to go to. So it's
it will also show you where the nearest toilet is, and where the nearest food outlet is, and where the nearest fire exit is. So it's well worth looking into if you've got extended campuses.
And there's Phil, for example, is on one of, is it 7 campuses you've got? A colleague, Sergar, Phil?
Yeah, 7 7, and the main one is huge. And the only time I've been down there, I got lost. So yeah,
So you needed maps indoors.
Yeah. It would have been helpful.
What kind of traffic is there between the sites? Do you move from campus to campus a lot?
Where I am, Cardigan and Aberystwyth campus, there's quite a lot of back and forth there, but we don't often get people up from the more southern campuses like Techy, Carmarthen. The big wigs come up every now and again, but not teaching staff or really.
All right. So there's some movement between campuses.
Yeah.
And do students move between campuses?
No, I don't think so. No, I'm pretty sure you. Well, not on my campus in Aberystwyth. I wouldn't have thought so, to be honest. I think you just have your home campus.
Yeah. But handy for when they're brand new, particularly with things like Techy, which is big, isn't it?
Yeah.
To find their way around, take all the stress of that out, to know where they need to get to, would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. Good. I'm just gonna, for those of you maybe who arrived a few minutes late, I don't know whether you saw that, a link to our YouTube channel. This recording and the updates from Monday will appear on our YouTube channel. Do please go along and subscribe. All the kind of videos that we create invariably end up there in one form or another. You see that message, Dave, from John? He wants to pick your brain.
Sorry, I was on a different tab. Let me update. Yeah, of course, John. No problem at all. I will drop my email address in here, and we can arrange either a Google Meet or a email conversation, whatever works well for you.
Which Matt are you from, John?
Sorry, just thought it'd be easier to turn my mic on. We're from Pinnacle Learning Trust, so Oldham Sixth Form College.
All right.
Oh, you're only down the road from us anyway. We could even meet in the pub.
Now you see, that's collaboration.
Yeah. See, you don't get that with Microsoft, do you?
Exactly. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. There we go. So if you grab that
Brilliant.
email,
I'll drop you an email.
Cool.
Brilliant. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good.
Will do.
Right. So if there are no further questions related to any of the updates for today, 4th of October for the next Techy Tuesday. Thank you very much for coming along. This will be on the web by tomorrow, Wednesday, by Friday. Both of them from Monday and today will be on the web by Friday, so you can refer other people you know to it. Do encourage people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you all when I see you next. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.